a big influence on making this record was kind of going back to, you know, what started the band, which was, you know, East Coast hardcore, West Coast with, you know, East Coast hardcore, rhythmically heavy rhythms, heavy guitars, music that, you know, East Coast hardcore would always make you bounce your head. You know, it had this backbeat that would always kind of like, you know, keep you for lack of better words, grooving, you know. And then also West Coast melodic punk rock where, you know, we could bust into a fast song, right? And then lyrically more emotional, you know, which would be more of like, you know, the well, again, lack of better terms, the emo side. So I think it was really going back to what started this band and what created this band and what made us stand out is to expect the unexpected, you know, where it's like you're gonna hear a fast, super fast melodic, you know, part that would be on a West Coast album from the 90s, and all of a sudden the chorus comes in and it could be from a hardcore record from the 90s from New York, you know, like a old school, you know, breakdown or things like that. So that was sort of the big influence, was just kind of going back to combining all the elements of what made Newfound Glory, which was, you know, like I said, like we all are very different people in the band. You know, we're all from different places, and musically, where Ian was the punk guy, you know, and I was really into hardcore. I love punk rock too, but I lean more into the hardcore stuff. Jordan is super indie rock, you know what I mean? That's why you know, we'd always tease him with the band names of, you know, bands that he likes. Like we'd be like, what the hell? Like, what band is that? You know, like he just knows like every indie rock band and always has. And so like, and Cyrus is more of a technical person, you know, who is more of, you know, into the bigger song side of things. Like, you know, he's, you know, loves all music, but more of for the, I guess, technical side of how the song's built, the melodies and, you know, things like that. So, you know, we've always been super different. So to combine all of who we are made Newfound Glory. You know what I mean? And it wasn't conforming where it was like, you know, this part is going to make Ian stoked. This part's going to make me stoked. This part's going to make Jordan stoked. And ultimately it comes together and you get this one of a kind thing that's through the years grown and inspired new bands and young bands and different bands, and has become a whole subgenre of its own. But that was sort of, you know, the goal, you know, going into the record, you know, sonically, is to go back to combining all of our individualities into these songs and create, you know, unexpected, you know, things. Like I mentioned, Frankenstein's Monster, where it's like a super fast song, you know, that you would maybe hear on an Epitaph record in the 90s that busts into a riff that, you know, might have been on the first Get Up Kids EP. You know what I mean? On Doghouse or something, you know. So yeah, that was like a big thing going into this record. And then overall feeling, the whole feeling of the record, and was, you know, just looking at the state of the world, you know, and how divided I think the way the internet makes people feel, social media makes people feel, those kind of things. And that's what a lot of Boom Roasted is about, is, there's a lot of division, and a lot of the division between people is based on marketing. Someone's trying to sell something. So they go through an idea that someone's passionate about or someone's been affected about, and they come up with a post, or they do some kind of fake research, or they believe in something for the moment while it's profitable, while it's marketable, and stuff like that. So with this record, we wanted to get rid of that division, because that was what really built Newfound Glory. Like, we grew up, what Beer and Bloodstains is about, in a small, community, a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. And, all the shows were in Fort Lauderdale, Miami. And, it was Newfound Glory, Dashboard Confessional, Morning Again, Poison the Well, all these bands playing these tiny clubs together, and they all didn't make sense to play together. But we had nowhere else to go. There was nothing to do. So we would put on these shows, and it would be like a metal band, a ska band, whoever it was. It was just, even Nonpoint, Nonpoint, who's a huge, successful, new metal style band, would be on shows. And so it wasn't about, it was just more about everyone having a place to belong. So going into the album, making the record, Listen Up, I think when you listen to the album and the feeling you get from the album, it feels very positive. Besides the lyrics, just the overall feeling, the goal was that you would put on this record and forget about your problems, not put on the record and add to your problems, which is a popular thing in music. It's very, and that's not to say that people expressing their feelings honestly is not the right thing to do, but sometimes I find it, ironic that the people that are most successful are also the people that are asking you to feel the most sorry for them. And I think that with this record, it's different. We want people to feel, happy when they listen to this record, to forget about their problems. Or if we're singing about something that's heavy or a tough, if a lyric is about something that's heavy, that it's not from a place of staying in that place, but how do you use the tough situation that you've been put in and reverse it as like your superpower? How do you take your, whether you're suffering with a disease like me, whether you're suffering with mental illness, whether, not fitting in, you can hear the record, hear the song and go, no, I'm going to use this as an advantage, not as something that's going to hold me back. And I think that was a huge goal in this record. And that came from, a personal place, from me going through what I've been going through the last 3 years, battling a cancer that, life expectancy is supposed to be 6 months, and I've been alive for 3 years, fighting and, changing and traveling and doing whatever it takes. But through the battle, staying positive and taking what I've learned and try to use that in a way that's going to encourage someone to get through their difficulties. So yeah, that was a very big thing with this record, was to pull people together, to give people a home that they belong, that they can feel like they belong. where they don't have to believe in one thing, they don't have to believe in another thing. All they have to do is be themselves, and they'll find a place to fit in. And music being the connector of it all.